Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live because we have a verdict. We are not even rolling the intro. We are just going live to court. If you are watching live, well, just come on over here because the jury was entering the courtroom and we are going live for a verdict. So if all of you are just getting in, we are going live. We are going live for a verdict right now. So I need to change our court bug. Law nerds, welcome. We're just going to watch together and then we're going to figure out what's going on. So if you are ready, the jury just announced that they had a verdict. The attorneys and the defendant are in the courtroom and we are going live. So if you are ready, we are ready. I just want to make sure we are live so that you can see me and I can see you in the chat. Because, well, we hit live so fast, I wanted to make sure that we could. So I see you guys, you see me. We are going live to court because the jury has a verdict. So the jury has a verdict. So everybody take a breath. The jury has a verdict.
Anyone else in the courtroom may be seated.
Chad, I see you. Good. Let's go. All right.
May I inquire?
You may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, have the deliberating jurors reached a unanimous verdict?
We have.
Thank you, sir. If you could hand that to the court officer, please.
All right, for all of you that got your notifications through the Law Nerd app, good to see you. I was in the middle of a meeting. I don't know what you guys were doing in your day, but hopefully it's a good day. And here we are. The clerk is checking the verdicts, which they do in every case to make sure that the verdict form is filled out properly. Brian Walshe is standing in the courtroom with his attorneys. And you hear the paper shuffling. They are reviewing the verdict. I thought they might be back around the lunch hour. I was wrong. They are back well before lunch. Well, no, 11:45 Massachusetts time. So
May the verdict be recorded.
It may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe,
And here we go.
Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091. As to count one, wherein the defendant Brian Walshe is charged with
The only
murder in the
count.
first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
murder in the first degree.
So say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
I do.
Thank you. If you could hand that back to the court officer, please.
Brian Walshe has no motion in
Jury
his
may be
face
pulled.
at all. They're going to poll the jury as they should.
Juror number one, juror in seat number one. As to the verdict of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number two, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number three, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number four, as to the charge of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Mr. Foreperson, is that your verdict?
Yes.
I'm going to switch
that your
feeds
verdict?
for the rest of this.
Juror in seat number 8, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 9, is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 10, is that your verdict? Juror in seat number...
They're
13,
polling the jury.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, is that your verdict?
Yes.
And last juror, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, all jurors answer affirmatively.
Yeah, all of them.
that the guilty of
Sir,
first
all
degree
of
is
them.
your verdict.
The verdict may be recorded. Please be seated.
All right, they are going to discuss things like sentencing. This is the first time this feed has put up a banner, but
Jurors, I want to thank
it
you
is what
for
it
your
is.
service on
the
this
jurors are being
case.
dismissed. We'll talk about it in a minute. Don't worry,
I
we'll
know
replay
that
it in a minute.
A little bit more quickly than we were expecting, but your service has been substantial. We're in the third week of this trial, and I appreciate all you did to be obedient to those rules that I placed on you and for your conscientious service.
The court's thanking the jury.
I will be back to meet with you privately in a moment.
All the
Feel
judges
weight
do that.
Lifting off of you right now, as I'm releasing of you those requirements. You can talk to anyone about this case, or no one at all. You can do whatever research you wish to do about
I
the
bet
case,
they do.
or not at all.
The court's telling the
Go back
jury
on
they are
social
released
media
from those
if you want,
obligations.
News media. And I'm supposed to release you from that burden of being open-minded. But I hope you always go through your lives with open hearts and open minds, new experiences, and new people. I'll I'll be back in just a minute to meet with all of you privately. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Jurors exiting, all rise. Jurors, follow me, please.
The jurors are going out. They have to deal with sentencing and some other dates. The jury came back guilty of murder in the first degree. Brian Walshe didn't make much of a face at all, did he? And it seemed that even the pool camera wasn't quite ready for the verdict. They gained their audio up after we were done. I didn't even switch my earrings. That was fast. It's like, oh, the lawyers are coming in. Oh, verdict. Okay. And then we went live. So we will go back and watch it again for those of you just coming in. They're going to talk about dates for sentencing. We have a verdict. We'll go back and watch it again.
When are we going to be in a position to have the victim impact statements and conduct the sentencing in this case?
Your Honor, I believe that we could do it as early as Wednesday of this week.
Oh.
But I believe if it's available to the court, we can also do Thursday or Friday.
This week.
I know that Friday's definitely not a good
Friday's
day for
not
the
ideal.
court, because I have other things scheduled. I anticipated the trial was going to be running, so I scheduled other things, although we could do it Friday morning. Does the defense have any preferences to the timing of the sentencing?
Your Honor, given the Commonwealth's recommendations, we'd actually request Wednesday at any point, if that's possible.
Oh.
I think it will be.
Okay.
I'll just, the only reason that I wouldn't do it on Wednesday is I do want the victim impact statements, regardless of the implications of the jury's verdict. It may have bearing on my sentencing on the other
cases. Not really.
counts to which he pled guilty.
It doesn't really.
That's right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. All rise.
Matter is continued to December 17th at 9 a.m. for sentencing position.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Court stands in recess.
Thanks, everyone.
As you just heard, Brian Walshe has been found guilty of first.
All right. And now all the feeds are going to go to their own stuff. Our production team are going to be looking for any interviews after court. For all of you just coming in, we're going to do a quick recap and then we will go watch that again together. So the jury came in and rendered their verdict. Sentencing is set for Wednesday at 9 a.m. So your question may be, but EDB, what is the potential sentence? Well, Brian Walshe is looking at life without the possibility of parole. So his potential sentence is life without the possibility of parole plus whatever for the counts that he pled to. And does it matter? I mean, it matters a bit, but it's life, period. That's what the sentence will be. And then he will get sentenced probably consecutive, which doesn't really make total sense because it's life, period. But he will be sentenced on the disposal of Anna Walshe and on the misleading, lying to, obstructing justice, that count as well. So Brian Walshe would be sentenced Monday morning at 9 a.m., which is fast. But part of the reason it's fast is because there's nothing they really need to prep. They just know what the sentence is. It's statutory. So there's not really much they need to discuss other than having the impact statements. Remember, they talked about the victim impact statements last week and that the agent that was working with the children through DCFS was working on getting an impact statement from the children. That will likely be filed with the court and will be sealed. That's not something that we will hear, but there will be other things that we will hear on the sentencing when we get there. So give me 1 sec as we get things moving forward. We are going to be here Wednesday. Did I say Monday? It's Monday today. We're going to be here Wednesday at 9 a.m. for sentencing. We're going to go back. Did I say Monday? It's been a very Monday today, Monday. It's fine. We're going to go back and take a look at the verdict coming in again, and then we are going to answer any questions. But court is done for the day. So they rested until Wednesday at 9 a.m. So court is done for the day in the Walshe matter. We will go back and watch that together. And there we are. The jury came back really with just a few hours of deliberation this morning. There's not really a question on sentencing here. It just, well, from here, it just is. This trial has run pretty normally. There hasn't been a lot of drama. And so it just ran incredibly normal, which is really nice, but it happened fast. So for everybody who came in from the Law Nerd app, good to see you. As soon as we heard that there was a verdict, we did everything we could to go live as quickly as possible to be here together with you for this verdict. So I'm going to switch feeds real quick because every time there's a verdict, all the feeds start putting up their anchors and their banners. We will keep an eye for any statements that the attorneys might make after the verdict and any press or what have you. We'll keep an eye out for that as well. So don't worry, we're keeping a look on that. So today, welcome back. I feel like we barely did an intro to the show. It was like, we're live, the jury has a verdict, go. Go, 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 go. But we're live, the jury has a verdict. We are going to go back and watch it together, and then we'll go from there. This has been, all things considered, a fairly normal case. It's run fairly smoothly. They've had a few moments of like bumps with evidence of getting things rolling. But when I say few, it has been a very, very few. So I'm going to rewind the feed that we were on. The jury had a little bit of a late start this morning because there was a juror that was not present in court. That juror was an alternate. They went to sidebar, and then the jury resumed deliberation. I assume at sidebar, they all agreed to just dismiss the juror that didn't show up today. And then the defendant got brought into court and the jury had a verdict. So let's go back to the beginning and watch that together real quick. Let me make sure the audio is gained up so that you can hear them read that in together. And then we're going to watch through, because it's only about 5 minutes of court, we're going to watch through court together. So we're going to watch through together. Merv, it's too early. It's too soon. It's too soon, chat. Too soon for where are we going to court next? We're not even done here. We're not done here yet. Too soon. So we are together for the jury coming in with a verdict. We watched it live. For all of you that are just popping on, we're going to go back and watch it together. So I'm going to roll the intro now so we have some normalcy in a stream, but the jury went out for deliberation Friday afternoon, deliberated for a few hours, went home for the weekend, and came back before the lunch break today with a verdict. No more questions, just the questions that were on Friday, which is, where's that evidence? And then came back with their verdict today. So we are going to rewatch that together. Thank you for all of those that were here live watching it. For all of you that are just popping in, we're doing our best not to spoil. Let's roll the intro. Let's go back to court and watch this watch this jury verdict come in together. You know, we have to be limble in these situations for the jury when it comes in. We must be prepared. Oh, it's a Monday, Law Nerds. Let's go to court. Hey there, I'm lawyer and legal analyst Emily D. Baker, and this is your go-to destination for live court coverage. I break down the law, the strategy, and the evidence in real time, so you know what's happening. No law degree required. So join the law nerds in the chat. They're here for the facts, not and let's get to court. Y'all, I didn't even finish my coffee this morning. I didn't redo lip gloss. I was on a Zoom call. My hair was in a bun. Like, that's where we're at this morning. I didn't change the earrings, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's verdict day in the Brian Walshe case, and we're just going to go to court together. They didn't show the fan today, so for all of you that miss the fan, I apologize. I don't even think they did the hearings. I think they were just like, verdict, go!
We're back on the record in the matter of Commonwealth versus Walsh.
This is just a few minutes ago in court. The court looks solemn. The jury's reached a verdict. So, okay, Your Honor. The court's like, the jury's reached a verdict. Let's go. I'm going to let this play in real time. And then we'll just watch it in real time. Well, we have watched it. We have watched it when it streamed live just a few moments ago. We're going to watch the entirety of it together. For those of you that are like, what is sitting in this courtroom like? Just go back and listen to the beginning of Eminem 8 Mile. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Like your hands are a little bit shaky, your heart's pounding. You can see the lead DA Connor sitting there. I imagine Connor's hands are together, eyes at the table, trying to breathe. You don't necessarily want to look at the jury. Sometimes you look at the jury. There's times where jurors have looked at me and just smiled as they've walked out. And I'm like, oh, okay. But your heart, I can't explain to you what your heart rate is like in this moment, pounding out of your chest, waiting for the jurors to come in. I don't know what that's like for a defense attorney. I've not sat in that chair, but I have sat in that prosecutor's chair where you try to keep your hands from shaking and hold them together. You can feel the weight of the courtroom because there is a weight to it while you're waiting for the jury to walk out and read the verdict. And it is really like, knees weak, but you're a little bit shaky and you're trying to breathe. So I'm not surprised we see the prosecutor staring at the desk and staring forward, hands together, just trying to breathe and not trying to stare down the jury as they come in. Sometimes defendants do try to stare down the jury as they come in. I don't know if they think it's going to help or not, but they do try to see what's going on. So this is just the amount of time it took.
Rise.
Jury had a verdict. They walked the jury to the courtroom from wherever the jury room is to come in for the verdict. They didn't do the hear ye's. They just came in. All rise for the jury. Jury has a verdict. So that's what we're doing here together. For those of you that are just coming in, we're watching this. We watched it just a few moments ago live. We rewound and we're watching it again because, we wanted to watch it again.
Please remain standing. Everyone else in the courtroom may be seated.
That was it.
Your Honor, may I inquire?
You may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, have the deliberating jurors reached a unanimous verdict?
We have.
Thank you, sir. If you could hand that to the court officer, please.
They're going to review it and then read in the verdicts. The jurors pronounce the verdicts in Massachusetts, different than other jurisdictions where the clerk does it. The judge is going to look at those verdicts and make sure that everything makes sense. Remember, it's only one charge. There's options. Not guilty, guilty first, guilty second. Those are the only options here. So the court's going to review those. A lot less to review than in other cases we've watched together. For everyone just coming in, we are watching the verdict come in.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091. As to count one, wherein the defendant Brian Walsh is charged with murder in the first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
Murder in the first degree, so say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree, so say all deliberating jurors.
I do.
Thank you. If you could give that back to the court officer, please.
The eyebrow raise. He's like nodding his head and then the eyebrow raise. He's like, hmm. And then when they all agree, he goes, with the eyebrows. I'm backing that up a little bit. This verdict came in about 5-10 minutes ago. So we are just watching it all together. And then we will answer some questions. I'm going to let the whole morning play. So those of you that caught it in various places, we're just going to watch this through to the end. But if you wanted to look at the defendant's reactions one more time, now that you've heard the verdict, guilty of first degree murder, you can watch how he reacts to it. So I just backed that up a little bit so we can rewatch the defendant nodding as the verdict comes in and then kind of raising an eyebrow as they all agree. Okay, I went back a little bit too far.
Your Honor, may the verdict be recorded.
It may.
All right, recording the
Mr.
verdict.
Person, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091. As to count one, wherein the defendant Brian Walshe is charged with murder in the first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
Murder in the first degree, so say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree, so say all deliberating jurors.
I do.
Thank you. If you could hand that back to the court officer, please.
And then they poll the jury.
The jury may be polled.
Thank you.
So they're going to poll the jury.
Juror number one, juror in seat number one. As to the verdict of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number two, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number three, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number four, as to the charge of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Mr. Foreperson, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 8, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 9, is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 10, is that your verdict? Juror in seat number 13?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, is that your verdict?
Yes.
And last juror, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, all jurors answer affirmatively that the guilty of first degree is their verdict.
The verdict may be recorded. Please be seated.
All right. They're going to excuse the jury after the judge thanks them. I'm going to try to gain that up just a little bit more because it is hard to
wanna
hear.
thank you for
So
your
give me 1 second. I'm going to gain that up. The judge is going to dismiss and excuse the jurors. I think the judge's words here are welcomed and kind. So we're going to hear the judge dismiss the jury now.
On this case,
Gained up as much as I can.
I know that it
I
went
think.
a little bit more quickly than we were expecting, but your service has been substantial. We're in the third week of this trial, and I appreciate all you did to be obedient to those rules that I placed on you and for your conscientious service as jurors in this case. I will be back to meet with you privately in a moment. You should feel a weight lifting off of you right now as I'm releasing of you of those requirements. You can talk to anyone about this case or no one at all. You can do whatever research you wish to do about the case.
She's telling them they're removed from all those obligations.
Go back on social media if you want, news media,
You can go back on social media if you want.
supposed to release you from
You don't
that
have to.
burden of being open-minded. But I hope you always go through your lives with open hearts and open minds, new experiences, and new people.
Clear eyes, full hearts, Your Honor. She said you are, no longer obligated to keep an open mind. Well, they've rendered a verdict. I'm sure they feel, and they sounded like they felt, confirmed to a moral certainty about this verdict. You can hear it in the jury's voices when they're polled. And she said, I hope you always go through life with an open mind and an open heart, but also reminding them they no longer have to keep an open mind about this case because their mind has been made up. The jury is the finder of fact. And the facts that they found was that this is a first degree, which means willful and deliberate premeditated murder. Let's finish the jury dismissals. We're going to answer some questions. Afterwards,
In just a minute to meet with all
the judge lets the jury know she's going to meet with them privately after
Chris exiting,
the
all rise.
attorneys are
Chris,
dismissed.
follow me, please.
That is common in every case that she's going to meet with them privately. And the judge will go back and chat with them for a moment, ask if they have any questions, thank them again for their service. If you were a juror on this case, would you like a moment to say hello to the judge? Not sitting on the jury box, but in the jury room where they deliberate, the judge comes in and says, again, thank you for your service. Do you have any questions for me? Any feedback? The court staff and I all very much appreciate your service. This is a difficult time of year, but I think that the jury would like to take this opportunity to say hello to the judge and a little more face-to-face standing in a room together versus the judge on the bench and the jury in the jury box. And I think that they would appreciate that moment. Some jurors are just like, can we go? Do we go? Where do we go? We go back to the jury room and get our slips so we don't get called again for a year? Okay, bye. But I think with this judge that the jurors are going to want to say thank you and hello. So the court's going to discuss sentencing with everyone, and then we'll
When are
go
we going to be in
to
a
press
position to have
conferences.
the victim impact statements and conduct the sentencing in this case?
Your Honor, I believe that we could do it as early as Wednesday of this week, but I believe if it's available to the court, we can also do Thursday or Friday.
This week,
I know that
the
Friday's
prosecution
definitely not
said,
a good day for the court because I have other things scheduled. I anticipated the trial was going to be running, so I scheduled other things, although we could do it Friday morning. Does the defense...
let's be real, Your Honor. All of us expected that the trial would still be going on, and you told the jury it was going to be a half day on Friday. So if it was going to be a half day on Friday, of course you had things planned for the afternoon.
have any preferences to the timing of the sentencing?
Your Honor, given the Commonwealth's recommendations, we'd actually request Wednesday at any point, if that's possible.
All right, I think it will be. I'll just, the only reason that I wouldn't do it on Wednesday is I do want the victim impact statements, regardless of the implications of the jury's verdict. It may have bearing on my sentencing on the other counts to which he pled guilty.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Matter is continued to December 17th at 9 a.m. for sentence imposition.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Sentence imposition Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. We will be there together live, which means we're going to go live a bit earlier on Wednesday. And they are going to take the defendant back to local custody. He will be transferred out to prison after he is sentenced on Wednesday. So we just rewatched the verdict together. We are going to go to press conferences. If any of you are just showing up, it's just a few minutes back, and the courtroom is much more full today. I think everybody was anticipating a verdict today. Much more full today. The court, they went to the OnlyFan. So long, OnlyFan. So long. So for those of you just coming in, we have watched the verdict through twice. We're going to go to press conferences for anyone that is speaking outside the courthouse. Brian Walshe is going to be sentenced on Wednesday morning, December 17th at 9 a.m. local time. The sentence on the first-degree premeditated murder is fixed. It is a life without parole sentence. That is the fixed sentence. The fight between first-degree murder and second-degree murder in this case was legally over the premeditation, but was practically over the possibility of parole. Because on a second-degree murder, you can be sentenced to a term of years, 15, 20, 25, plus the other cases, a term of years plus to life. So there's an opportunity for parole after those fixed amount of years are served. When it comes to the life without parole sentence or the period, the sentencing on the other cases may change because there was a enhancement depending on the misleading law enforcement due to the nature of the case. And with the nature of the case that the jury has now found, I think he is eligible for that enhancement. So at sentencing, he will be sentenced on the disposal of Anna Walshe, the lying to law enforcement or obstruction, I think the enhanced sentence on the obstruction, because he was obstructing in relation to a case where life could be the potential sentence. So it'll raise that. But does it matter? I mean, no, because the only sentencing option in this case is life without parole. So what can the judge sentence him to? Well, on the first degree murder, he's going to get sentenced to life without parole. And then it might be life without parole plus 10, 20 on the other counts. Does it matter? No, because you're not going to serve that time, and that time doesn't add to the minimum time before parole. So if there was a second, then it would be whatever that fixed year was plus the time on the other case. That's not the case here. There's no plus, but they're going to sentence him on that anyway. And I think the judge will probably max him out on the charges that he pled for. Why? Why will the judge max Brian Walshe out on counts 2 and 3 that he pled guilty to and make sure that he gets the enhancement on lying to police or obstructing justice in connection with a life crime? Obstructing justice in connection with a petty theft is a very different thing than obstructing justice in connection with a first-degree murder. Why would the court want those enhanced sentences? If there is anything that happens on appeal, if the law changes down the road, if the jury instructions change down the road, there can be appeals for this case long into the future, 10, 20, 30 plus years of appeals on this conviction. So maxing him out on the underlying crime assures that if there is an appeal, he stays in custody while those appeals move forward. A lot of you in the chat are asking, can he appeal? He absolutely can appeal because he was convicted by jury of a life sentence. So he will absolutely appeal. How far that appeal is going to go is a conversation for another day. If we see motions for new trial before this court, we will cover them. But yes, he's going to appeal. Will it be with these attorneys? With the motion for new trial, possibly it will be with these attorneys. Well, they will argue before the court and say, hey, Your Honor, same what we said in the motion for a judgment of not guilty. Same argument there. And the court will deny it. And that's another procedural step before we get to the appeal. What will his grounds for appeal be? I mean, the grounds for appeal are going to be, we disagree with the court's rulings on these things. The court should have ruled this. The court should have ruled that. The court should have allowed the jury to know about his guilty pleas. That might have been a substantial factor in him choosing not to testify. So the court's they're going to appeal potentially on those grounds. Because what are they going to appeal? Everything. They're going to appeal, hey, in pretrial motions, in motions in limine, the court granted this motion and they shouldn't, or the court denied this motion and they shouldn't. And then, hey, in trial, the court ruled this and they should or shouldn't have. That's the basis of the appeal. What those bullet points will be, it's going to be up to the appellate counsel that he will get appointed down the road. I don't imagine it's going to be these defense attorneys that are trial attorneys that are going to be doing his appeal. He'll be appointed a new public defender for his appeal. With regards to the counts he pled to, he didn't waive appeals with regard to the plea. So could he try it? I mean, he could. It's not going to go very far, but he could. And then any rulings they disagreed with from the pretrial motions and motions in limine, they'll appeal those. And then we'll cover it. When the appeal is filed, we'll go through the appeal and keep an eye on it. You know, if there's anything that we're going to do on this channel, we're going to cover a case till it's all the way done. That often buckles us in for a case for 3 to 5 plus years, but we'll be buckled in for that period of time, and we'll keep an eye on the appeal just like we're doing in Murdaugh. So chat and moderators have all let me know that there are some press statements being made outside of court. We have rolled the verdict twice now. We have played the reading of the verdict twice now. So for those of you just coming in, it will be timestamped. But for those of you that have been here, we have played the verdict twice now. So the jury has come back in and read the verdict. How many of you just came in? How many of you just came in? Let me know in the chat. I can be persuaded to play the reading of the verdict just one more time. I could be persuaded. I I could. A lot of you just came in. Okay. One more time. Devices, be quiet. One more time. A lot of you just came in. We'll roll the reading of the verdict one more time. We're not going to go through all of it. So we're going to roll the reading of the verdict one more time, and then we'll go to after court statements. Look, we normally roll it 3 or 4 times anyway. It happened quickly. So we'll roll it one more time. And then a lot of you are just like, yeah, get it. So we'll roll it one more time on the reading of the verdict and then go to press statements.
I do.
All right, that was the polling. So I'm not backed up just enough yet. All right. This is the jury coming in. All right. There we go. One more time for any of you that missed the reading of the verdict live or on the replay. So here we are. All right. My in-ears aren't even like buckled in. Emily was in Zoom meeting mode this morning. So.
Will the deliberating jurors and the defendant please remain standing? Everyone else in the courtroom may be seated.
All right. Everybody's seated except for the defendant, the defense attorneys.
You may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, have the deliberating jurors reached a unanimous verdict?
We have.
Thank you, sir. If you could hand that to the court officer, please.
They are checking the verdict slips. That's that paper rustling noise that you're all hearing. That is them loudly checking the verdict slips.
Your Honor, may the verdict be recorded.
It may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091. As to count 1, wherein the defendant Brian Walshe is charged with murder in the first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
Murder in the first degree, so say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree, so say all deliberating jurors.
I do.
Thank you. If you could hand that back to the court officer, please.
This time we'd move to poll the jurors.
That was Attorney Tipton. You heard saying at this time we'll move to poll the jurors. We're going to listen to the jury being polled, and then we're going to go to any statements outside the courtroom.
Juror may be polled.
Thank you. Juror number 1, juror in seat number 1. As to the verdict of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 2, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 3, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4, as to the charge of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Mr. Foreperson, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 8, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 9, is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 10, is that your verdict? Juror in seat number 13?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, is that your verdict?
Yes.
And last juror, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, all jurors answer affirmatively that the guilty of first degree is their verdict.
The verdict may be recorded. Please
Thank
be
you.
seated.
All right. The guilty verdict for Brian Walshe, guilty of murder in the first degree, came in Massachusetts just around 11:45 a.m. It might have been a little ahead of that, local time Eastern. We have gone through that. We went through that live. We have gone through that a few times. So for all of you that came scooting in here, we did not have a lot of time either because there was no real formal announcement until the court took the bench. The attorneys went to the courtroom and we were kind of on standby. That could very easily have been a question. And then the court said the jury has a verdict. And it was like 3 minutes from then to the jury reading the verdict. So we got live as fast as we could, sent out an app notification. I know those notifications can vary by carrier. So it's good to see all of you. We watched that verdict 3 times. We are going to go watch looks like there's a little bit of a press statement outside the courthouse. We're going to go to that. And then I'm going to answer any of your questions. The court did set the sentencing date for this week, Wednesday, December 17th, 9 a.m. Eastern local time. We will be together to do that live. What is he facing for sentencing on murder in the first degree? It is life without parole, just life, period. And then on the other counts, it's if the court finds the enhancement on the obstruction of justice, which she will because he was obstructing justice, where life can be the punishment, e.g. murder. So with the obstruction, I think the court will max him out on the obstruction and on the disposal, which I think puts him right in the 30-year range, but I would need to double check. But I think it's right around there. It might be a little bit less, but the life without parole, and then he'll get the maximum on the other. The court wants to wait for the impact statements. Remember, we heard on Friday that the impact statements DCFS is working on with Brian and Anna Walsh's children, and those written statements will not be read into the record. It's my belief from what the court said that those statements will be sealed. I do not think those will be unsealed. In Massachusetts, they call it impounded, but the court will have the impact statements. Will the impact statements change the sentencing in this case? No, they won't. They might change the judge's comments to the defendant, but they won't change the sentencing. The sentence in this case is life without parole. The impact statements can't make that sentence go up or down. It is a statutory sentence. It is a period sentence. That's it. But with the other cases, the court, or the other counts that he pled guilty to, the court does have some discretion. And with that discretion, I still think that the judge will pick the very top end of that sentence based on the facts of this case, based on the defendant's behavior in this case. One of the things about going to trial is the court knows less about you if you plea and get sentenced than if you go to trial. If you go to trial, the court knows a lot more about your actions. And based on what we saw in this case, I would be incredibly surprised if the court did not sentence him to every literal second of time that the court could sentence him to. And I wonder if the court might wish that there was more that she could do on sentencing. There are some cases where you look at the facts and you're like, there's not enough time in this lifetime or others to sentence you. But the court only has enough. MOA asks, how do you appeal a guilty plea? He could try to appeal the sentence on the guilty plea. He could try to say that he didn't have proper advisement of counsel. I don't know if he will, but he could. I mean, Chad, do any of you think that Brian Walshe won't just do everything possible to protect Brian Walshe at this point? You don't think he's going to say, oh, well, my lawyer didn't say that I couldn't use it to my benefit in trial. I didn't think that the court was going to say that the jury wouldn't know that I pled guilty with integrity, and I never would have pled guilty if I had known that the court wasn't going to let me use it to try to make the jury think that I was telling them the truth. I wouldn't have pled guilty. I was under duress of my own opinion. Yes, no, he'll try to appeal everything. Yeah, and an appellate attorney is going to say, try to appeal everything. Sure. Yeah, he'll try to appeal everything. It's not going to go very far, but he's going to try to appeal everything. Let's go see what the press conference is. I'm just seeing the standby for press conference. Let's go see what's going on outside of Norfolk County Superior Court. Snow is what's going on. Okay, can we just take a moment to appreciate A, the coats, and B, can we just talk about Attorney Yaz's hair? I know it's Ann Yaz. Ann Yaz. Emily, you're totally ignoring Michael Morrissey. Yes, I am. I have personal feelings. They're not fond. I'm going to focus on Connor's coat and scarf and Yaz's hair, because Yas Queen. I love it. All right. I'm going to gain this up as much as I can. That might suck because it's outside of court, but I thought all the tabs were gained up. They were not. The other tab was gained up. This tab is not gained up. All right, we're going to gain it up as much as we can. If we don't get to hear from Yas and Connor, I'm going to be I just guess I'm going to prepare to be disappointed because it sounds icy as fuck outside that courthouse. Emily, that sounds like the kind of ice you thought Ugg boots were suitable winter shoes for. Look, man, I didn't know. I moved from Southern California to Amherst, Massachusetts, and I just didn't know. It sounds real icy. It's a pretty courthouse, though. It really is a beautiful courthouse. I'm not surprised Michael Morrissey's there. For any of you being like, why is Michael Morrissey there? Isn't there an election? Isn't there an election going on? Yeah. He's up for re-election. That's why he's there.
Give us a minute, sir. I will.
They didn't poll the alternate jurors. They only pulled the deliberating jurors. All right, they're getting the microphones set up. Connor, we wanted you to ask more questions. Buddy, can we ask you questions? We got questions. Some of you are saying he's not running. Oh, that's good to know. Seems about right that he's not running then. Okay, so there's not an election. Maybe just wants to go out being like, see, look, we did a thing. Some of you are saying he is, some of you are saying he isn't. I really don't know which one it is, but.
You all set or what? Need a minute?
And yes, for all of you, like, can you tell your boss that the press conference is not for him? Not easily. If the boss wants to show up and talk to the cameras, the boss is going to show up and talk to the cameras.
Everybody ready? Yeah, go ahead. All right. I'm Michael Morrissey, the Norfolk District Attorney, and
We're
with me
aware.
today, standing behind me, some of the most important people in the event you witnessed over the last few weeks and couple of years.
The event that we witnessed? Have you done trials? Weird
To
turn
the
of
Norfolk
phrase.
District Attorney, and with me today, standing behind me, some of the most important people in the event you witnessed
So let
over
them
the last
talk.
few weeks and couple of years. I have members of the Cohasset and State Police, as well as my trial team, are with me today.
Excuse me. Did you mention MSP? No? Oh. Cohasset. Yeah, Cohasset did a good job.
Did an outstanding job. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the jury. This is a very difficult case from the beginning. Take time out of their schedule to hear such days of evidence, complex evidence, and a difficult case, and to come up with the decision they did. Without the jurors, our system doesn't work, and my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of those who participated and the alternates who were chosen as well. I'd like to thank the Cohasset Police.
So you do know it's appropriate to thank the jury then. Emily, you're awfully salty. Chad, it's not about this case. We've been through some shit with this particular elected official. So for those of you that are new to my channel for just this case, my saltiness has nothing to do with this case. No, it's lingering from the Karen Reed case.
State Police, the medical examiner's office, and the crime lab.
Oh, he did thank state police. Do you really need to look at your notes to thank the crime lab? They were fucking great.
Jurors, our system doesn't work, and my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of those who participated and the alternates who were chosen as well. I'd like to thank the Cohasset Police, the State Police, the medical examiner's office, and the crime lab for their hard work. It was an incredible effort. If you think about what you saw during the trial, there was all sorts of forensic evidence. They left no stone unturned. They viewed 60 witnesses.
So they can do an investigation. You agree. You should interview witnesses contemporaneous with the thing happening. So you agree. Investigations can happen.
It was an incredible effort. If you think about what you saw during the trial.
I backed it up because I keep
all sorts of
interrupting
forensic
him.
evidence. They left no stone unturned. They viewed 60 witnesses, almost 60 witnesses testified at trial, and they interviewed even more people. So while you saw a good part of what we had, it was only a small fraction of the time and effort that they put in to get that evidence. And they went to dumpsters, to landfills, two dumps as well, to transfer station.
How much did it cost them to prosecute this case? I have a question, because I could speculate that it was not nearly as much as other cases you've chosen to prosecute.
Department stores, lumber stores, CVS, just to gather all this evidence, which was critical in this case. And that effort should not be forgotten, and how hard it was. For without those tools and the evidence that they provided us, that the trial team, which I had the utmost confidence, very competent, professional people, long-term prosecutors in the office, had great tools to work with, but they also great people in their own right. And they put on a very, very great case.
Could we hear from them?
In a difficult setting. Now, we've seen other cases where we've not had a body, but this is the first one I can remember we've had a first-degree conviction, and I just wanted to thank them.
This is the first time your office has had a first-degree murder conviction on a no-body homicide case? Really? LA would like to have a word. I think your prosecutors did a good job. Can we hear from them, please?
Profusely. I know that a number of them passed up vacations, worked holidays, and they know what's expected of them. We took the job.
That's the job.
To speak for victims, and they did one heck of a job speaking for Anna's family. And I just wanted to also to say we did hear from Anna's sister, and her comment was, justice has been served, and we agree wholeheartedly with her comments as well. But they never lost sight of that. And I'd like to just personally thank Greg Connor.
Can we hear from him?
Tracy Cusack and Yaz. And we have the Cohasset Police, Harrison.
Sir, it's actually criminal that you're not showing us Anyaz's hair. Can we hear from them?
And the State Police and the head of our victim services, Kristen Collins. Also Laura McLaughlin, who's not here. She did a lot of the early work in the case, and so we had.
Oh, we know how much work Miss McLaughlin does. No shade to Miss McLaughlin. Miss McLaughlin has one of the hardest jobs in the courtroom, and that's to make the tech work right. Harder, in fact, than keeping a camera still.
A great team, and I just wanted to profusely thank them. It's been a great day for us in the office.
Could we hear from them?
I'd ask Greg if he wants to say a word or two. Greg Connor.
Good. I would like to hear from Greg Connor. Also, is there not a single place in this courthouse where they could set up a few microphones that isn't standing literally on the street?
Thank you, Michael. It was a great honor to work with Tracy and Ann on this trial, two of the finest lawyers I've ever got to know, and also to go against Kelly and Larry, who are extremely good lawyers.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you to our law enforcement partners, but in particular, one person who worked on this
Cohasset.
case day after day from the beginning was Sergeant Harrison Schmidt. When Cohasset lost one of their own, they stopped everything and tried to find this woman, and one person never gave up on that case, and it would be Sergeant Harrison Schmidt. Thank you very much, Mike.
For all of you that have asked, why is this case so much different than others we've seen? One, it's a very different circumstance. Two, Cohasset was in charge. Yes, former Trooper Proctor was the case agent, lead investigator for the MSP part of the case. However, Cohasset was the lead of this case. Cohasset was asking for what they needed. Cohasset was calling the plays, essentially, if we're going to use sports ball analogies. Cohasset was the one calling the plays. MSP helped them execute those, but they were not the ones making the calls. And that is a big difference here.
Harrison is here today, so thank you, Harrison. So I just want to end and close by, let's not lose sight of the fact that Anna's 3 young children will be without a mother, and especially at this time, difficult time of year, and hopefully going in the future, that we all wish them a bright future going ahead. But let's remember in a special way the loss they suffered, and thank you all for coming.
What will happen with the children?
I am not going to answer any questions of that. That's for another.
The media asked what will happen with the children. I think that's probably private for the children. So he's not going to answer that. He probably also does not know, to be fair.
Reaction from her mother or her family?
We just heard from the
Any additional reaction from Anna Walsh's mother or family?
sister. That was the only, so I passed it on. We heard that they called, and I passed it on to you.
Will they be making impact statements?
The judge, they're working with the trial team to schedule impact statements. I can't tell you what form they're going to come in, but the opportunity has been extended, and I expect we will hear something, and they're working on that now.
Mr. Morrissey, what are you looking for sentencing?
Excuse me?
For sentencing?
Well, there's a mandatory sentence of life, so, but there are other issues. They also developed other.
What about the sentencing? Well, it's mandatory. It's just life, period. There are other sentencing issues, though. Do they matter all that much? Ish.
Charges, as many of you have now heard, that there was a plea earlier to other charges, so that's being worked on. So you'll hear from the lawyers at the time of sentencing.
Mr. Morrissey, do you consider this a win after the Karen trial?
Someone from the media said, do you consider this a win after the Karen Reed trial? Sir, I think you should go with no comment on that one.
Roth is too guilty. You have no body, circumstantial evidence. What do you think was the strongest?
He ignored that question and somebody else is asking a question. Two different trials, everybody.
Is too guilty. You have no body.
I'm going to back that up. I'm trying to hear the other media question because they were overlapping. He seemed to ignore the Karen Reed question and somebody else is asking a question.
You have now heard that there was a plea earlier to other charges, so that's being worked on. So
yeah, we watched
you'll hear
it
from
happen.
the lawyers at the time of sentencing.
Mr. Morrissey, do you consider this a win after the Karen Reed trial? Actually, Roth is too guilty. You have no.
So the beginning of the next question is, what do you think actually brought this to guilty? The slippers were a big factor, but then also all the video and then the DNA. What do you think brought this to guilty? There's a fucking hacksaw, ma'am. I mean, did you watch the evidence? Him lying about his phone helps. Him telling everybody he was without his phone and he felt so free that his phone was missing and he could just do what he needed to do without his phone. There's the Tyvek suits and all the tarps and the tape and all the fucking Google searches that include the word murder. How to dispose of a body if you really need to. The lack of Google searches for sudden death and the abundance of Google searches. Also, the defense argued that, like, if you had committed a murder, why wouldn't that be one of your first Google searches? It didn't happen to like 4 or 5 hours later. The fucking shopping list at Lowe's. And how to clean blood out of the floors. And can you be charged with murder without a body being one of the Google searches is telling. And nobody even talked about the fact that there was insulation like bits of insulation in the bag. And there was a bunch of insulation cut out of the ceiling above the alcove that seemed to be tarped up for disposal. The insulation was just cut out of the ceiling. But okay, go ahead and ask him what why? Go ahead and ask him why.
No body, circumstantial evidence. What do you think was the strongest part of the case that convinced the jury this was guilty?
I don't think there's any one thing. I think it was the combined effort of working together with our law enforcement partners, the ME and other professionals, the work that was done on the forensics, so I think
just let your attorneys answer it.
Was important, but actually without that and without people explaining it in the courtroom, we'd have nothing, and I think they all did an awesome job.
Yeah, just let them explain.
And I'm just going to say one other thing.
Can we hear from
Richard? It's not about winning or losing. It's about getting the right answer. And this was
What did you just say? What did you just say? What did you just say? Okay. Okay, DA Morrissey. It's not about winning or losing. It's about getting the right answer. You realize that within the purview of your office, sometimes getting the right answer is not filing cases though, right? Like we have the same definition of what getting to the right answer means. Do we have the same, are we operating with the same definition or no?
I think was important, but actually,
I'm going to just let him say it again because I interrupted.
Without people explaining it in the courtroom, we'd have nothing, and I think they all did an awesome job. And,
Sir.
and I'm just going to say one other thing, because someone mentioned, it's not about winning or losing. It's about getting the right answer. And this was the right answer. And so I mean, we don't look at cases.
I agree this was the right answer. It's just, there's a lot of water under the bridge for this statement, sir.
As a wins or losses, we look at getting justice for someone. So let's not lose sight of that fact.
Yeah, let's not.
Ahead of time, right when jury selection was about to start, did that change the way you approached this case and your attorneys? Obviously, they had been.
Morrissey has no idea. The media is asking, did him pleading guilty change the way they approached this case? I don't think it did. I don't think it shifted the way they approached this case at all. When they were in trial, I do not think that they treated this case as if he had guilty pleas on counts 2 and 3. I don't think they shortened their witness list. I don't think they shortened their questions. I don't think they changed a thing about how they proceeded with this case because of those guilty pleas. I don't. I think they needed all of it to show the jury anyway.
Was about to start. Did that change the way you approached this case and your attorneys? Obviously, they had been looking at 3 different charges. Now it was 1 murder charge.
You can hear right from the
case was always going to be presented in the same way. The evidence was the evidence, and we wanted to make sure the jury had
all of it. Right.
That
That makes sense to me.
The change of plea was an interesting dynamic, but when it came down to it, we wanted to make sure the jury had all the facts.
Right.
What do you think it was? The online searches? Do you think it was a surveillance video? What do you think?
And now the media is asking the lead prosecutor what he thinks the substantial factors were.
Or the emotional testimony?
I don't think this case was determined on emotions.
I can't tell you. That would be a question for the jurors. We tried to give them all the information we had. We had it from multiple different factors.
What was most
whether it be
compelling to
surveillance
you
video,
is the right
text
question.
Messages, the internet searches. But what we had was a very thorough investigation that gave the lawyers in this case an excellent chance to try and give the jury what they needed.
That is a very go team answer, but he's not wrong. Cohasset did a fantastic job. There are not a lot of law enforcement agencies that would say, you know what we need to do? We need to get a couple flatbeds. We need to go get a bunch of trash dumpsters. We need to take those dumpsters in January to a sorting facility and go bag by bag by bag and see if we can find anything that would help. There are not a lot of agencies that would say, this is 100% what we're doing. It's a lot of resources. It's a lot of time. And it is not a pleasant task to try to find remains in the trash. But it didn't matter. They said, we have enough. We have enough and we're going for it. And they did it. Cohasset did a lot of work and not a lot of agencies would. So it's appropriate for him to give props to law enforcement because I think without what they recovered from the dumpster, this would have been a very difficult case. Imagine this case without everything you saw from the dumpsters. Just video of him shopping you could have obtained. The Google searches you could have obtained. But no DNA, no suits, no toggle from her necklace, no boots, no jacket, none of the tools. Without any of that, it would have been a different case. Not an impossible case, but it would have been a very different case. So the work that they did to track down where he was going and then recover those dumpsters and then search them, even though they didn't find, obviously, everything. And we can talk about that more because the DA made a very pointed comment about it during the plea in this case as part of the DA's factual basis. During the DA's factual basis for the plea with regard to improper disposal of remains, he talked about the fact that there were multiple dumpsters. But during the plea for the obstruction of justice or lying to the police, the prosecutor put on the record that because of the delay to police, because they were focusing on a missing person, it caused a number of the dumpsters to already be emptied and incinerated. So it's difficult to recover things, and they did a lot of work. So the props to Cohasset is absolutely needed. They are now starting to ask additional questions of the prosecutor, so I'm going to back that up. They're a little hard to hear.
It's an excellent chance to try and give the jury what they needed.
Were you surprised that he didn't testify? What did you want to
Were you
ask
surprised he didn't testify? What did you want to ask him was the question.
I don't know if
You
I
don't
can
have
comment on that.
enough time for that.
Let the attorney answer. Were you surprised he didn't testify? What would you have liked to ask him?
I think that's probably better not said.
But were you surprised that he didn't?
The judge was.
I think it's always up to the defendant to make that decision. I think it's the hardest decision a defendant can make.
Sir, are you going to be running for DA? It is very proper and appropriate answers. But come on. How late did you stay up prepping for cross-examination of the defendant? It is a very, very couched answer. It is always the defendant's right. Sir, you have talking to the press for DAs down to a science, but come on. Give us the tea.
I better not said.
But were you surprised that he didn't?
The judge was.
I think it's always up to the defendant to make that
testify.
decision. I think it's the hardest decision a defendant can make. And so I'm sure he put a lot of thought into it. We were prepared that if he did testify, we had a number of questions we wanted to have answered, but we understand it's his right not to.
So the question.
Yeah, over the past couple of years, a lot has been made of your office and the handling of different cases.
And now we're moving away from questions about this case specifically with a little bit of a more pointed comment or question, it sounds like, coming in from Morrissey.
Do you hope what happened here today restores some of that perceived lack of faith the public has?
I don't know.
It's not a perceived lack of faith with this office, I don't think. I don't think it's just a perception.
One loss of a high visibility case determines what happens in our office. We handle cases all the way from the bottom to the top.
Started from the bottom, now we're here. I'm going to let him answer.
The public has.
I don't know. One loss of a high visibility case determines what happens in our office.
He said, I don't know if one loss of a highly visible case determines what happens in the or determines what happens in our office. The loss isn't the problem. The loss isn't the issue. The prosecution was the issue, sir. You're still misreading the situation.
Handle cases all the way from the bottom to the top. We treat them all the same. There's no such thing as a single important case. This was a critical case, and you saw on display some of the smartest people and some of the toughest workers and investigators who have always been with me. So I think that sometimes you don't like what a jury has to say, but that's our system of justice. You present a case to a jury, and you have to abide by, at least I do. I took a constitutional oath. So I would just say today, I clearly am much happier with the outcome today, and I'm very happy with the work that was done by the professionals who work both in law enforcement and the district attorney's office. And really, I couldn't be happier. So
A lot has been made of you personally, obviously, over the last couple of years. We haven't really had a chance to hear from you. How have you?
Y'all, I don't know what chaos is happening, but the elected DA is getting actually peppered with some pointed questions that I would like the answer to too. And the camera has wandered off in its own direction. I don't know.
You've been doing, and what does this say today?
Well, it's, the good or bad news is, having been in our office for a number of years in politics, unlike my time,
I have never worked as a camera operator. I can only imagine how difficult this is, but it's tough.
on Beacon Hill, I get to speak out, but many of you know that.
Oh, I wonder if this camera that is now in front swooped in front of the other camera and it had to reset the focus. I don't know, but the media scrums like this, they literally do just bump into each other and move in front of one another. They don't always work well together. And so if somebody else put the camera in front of him, I wonder if it fucked up the focus a little bit, because that's tough that another camera is all of a sudden, because people will sit down and then start to stand up with their cameras, which is tough too.
Now as a district attorney, that if I speak out that I interfere with an individual's right to a fair trial, then that obviously weighs heavily upon me. So I am now free to speak today on this trial with some limitations. And so not hearing from me, obviously, then I don't want to tip the jury or tip the scales and let those cases go forward without putting a thumb on the scales of justice. And you know, I took the job to speak for victims, and we focus on victims, and that's what I'm going to continue to do through my tenure. So I just want to thank you all. I know this is, you know, a long period of time. We have to come to the courthouse, and we do have some calls to make.
This was not the longest case by any means.
I can try to reach out to some other family members and some other people, but thank you all, and hopefully it brings to a conclusion a very sad chapter in the history of Anna's family.
I agree with that. I don't take issue with that part. We want Yaz! Damn it! Give us Yaz! Bring back Attorney Yaz! What are y'all doing? Ma'am, how do you keep your hair from getting staticky with a scarf on? Excuse me? The Lawners have questions. Who said the cameraman was cold? As somebody's like, buddy, is this your glove? Fair enough.
I was over here setting up, and then I look up, and they're walking away.
Well, that's the end of that. They're still broadcasting. They're still rolling. Mics are still on. But that's the end of that. So, Lawnards, hi. How are you? It does look very cold and snowy outside of Norfolk Superior Court here today. How many of you, put a 1 in the chat if you are just coming in. We're going to answer some questions. We are going to, if we need to replay, we will replay the verdict for those of you just coming in. I know some of you have come in throughout the day. A number of you are just coming in. So we will answer a few questions. We'll replay the verdict. I'll cue it up for those of you that are just coming in. That's how verdict days tend to go. We tend to replay the verdict. I'll make sure that there aren't any other press statements that we need to see. We're not going to see anything else from the prosecutors. I imagine we're not going to see anything from the defense. Why? Well, what's the defense going to get asked? The defense is going to get asked, do you think your client should have testified? That's my client's decision. Why didn't your client testify? I can't comment on that. Are there any comments that you would like to make? We will be appealing. Sentencing is on Wednesday. There's not much else the defense can say. I think the defense attorneys did a good job with what they had. I don't think at the end of this trial, anyone can say that the defense attorneys were not zealous advocates for their client, but they only had so much to work with. And I think the defense put themselves at a bit of a disadvantage that, again, big risk, big reward. I think that the defense put themselves at a bit of a back foot for closing arguments based on their opening. I don't know how that happened. Look, that's a strategy call on the attorneys when they're doing their opening. That is not a call for the defendant But if this case has been like, we ride, and Brian Walshe was telling his attorneys, we ride, I'm testifying, this is my story. There's a lot of reasons that could go off the rail at the end. There's always a possibility the defendant's not going to testify. Donna Adelson was like, I'm testifying. No testimony. There is something different from being in the courtroom with your attorneys and your, the prosecutors, or being on a call in lockup with your attorneys. It is different than looking at the jurors in the face and being like, oh, and then you see the prosecutors do their shit. Like, prosecutors in court for motion argument and prosecutors in court with witnesses are two different people. I mean, often they're the exact same person, but it's two different vibes. Trial vibe and court vibes are not the same. And this trial was a great example of that, because we saw the court and the attorneys working together on jury instructions. And at one point, Tipton's like, excuse me, page 1. And the court's like, are you serious? Are you messing with me? Am I being punked? Like, no cap. And you saw a little bit of them working together in court without the jury presence. And you saw a little bit of the collegial respect in court with them working together. That's what the defendants see until the jury comes in. And once the jury comes in, the prosecutors are in a completely different mode of prosecutor. And it doesn't surprise me that defendants who are like, I'm going to testify, by the time the prosecutors are done with their case, the defendants are like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. I also have to wonder in this case if the court's ruling the day before that the defendant was not going to be allowed to essentially bolster their I pled guilty with integrity argument. Look, I'm so truthful. I pled guilty to what I did do. This is the shit that I didn't do. I wonder if that ruling for the defendant might have changed his mind on testifying, but the defense threw down what you were going to hear from the defendant in opening. And I think it threw Tipton off his game a bit in closing, because he was trying to, it seemed to me, he was trying to dampen or mitigate the damage that was done in opening. Because I think when you say you're going to hear that the defendant was doing emails and cleaning up the kitchen and then went to bed and then nudged his spouse and then nudged her again and then she fell on the floor, and your evidence is a floor with varnish missing and a hole in the ceiling that he was trying to have patched via text messages a couple days later, and you've told the jury, though it's not evidence, but you've told the jury she was nudged out of the bed, it's not unreasonable for the jury to have a difficult time getting that out of their brain and being like, well, is the reason the varnish is missing because there was blood all over the floor? It's a reasonable inference from the evidence. So I think it threw Tipton off his game a little bit. There's not much Tipton could say to the media at this point. There will be a sentencing on Wednesday. There will be a life without parole sentence. And we will go back and watch the verdict come in one more time together. And then we're going to go to questions. So this morning, just a little more than an hour ago, the attorneys entered the courtroom. The judge said the jury has a verdict. And then they all sat down and waited for the jury to come in. And we watched it together live. And we're going to do that one more time. And then we're going to go to questions. And then, and then we're going to talk about another case for Tuesday. And then we'll be back for sentencing on Wednesday. How's that sound, everybody? Good? Yeah, sounds good to me too. So let's go back to court real quick, and then we will get to your questions. I have more than 100 of them saved, so we've got lots to talk about. So let's watch this verdict come in one more time. For all of you who are just coming in, welcome. Good to see you. I think they are waiting for the jury to come in. Did I back up too far? I might have backed up too far. This was them waiting for the jury to come in. I did back up too far. There we go. Jury coming in. This is now on replay. Once they read the verdict in, we will go to questions. Sound like a plan, chat? Good. We got stuff to do tomorrow. We're not going to another trial tomorrow. Don't worry. We're catching up on
Deliberating jurors and the defendant, please remain standing. Everyone else in the courtroom may be seated.
Your Honor, may I inquire?
You may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, have the deliberating jurors reached a unanimous verdict?
We have.
Thank you, sir. If you could hand that to the court officer, please.
All right, they're going to review the verdict slips. Remember, we saw this in the Depp Heard case where the verdict slips were needed a little bit more zhuzhing. This case, remember, the verdict slip in this case was literally one count, name of count, not guilty, guilty in the first degree, guilty in the second degree. That was it. That was all. So it's a much easier verdict form for them to go through.
Your Honor, may the verdict be recorded.
It may.
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091. As to count one, wherein the defendant Brian Walsh is charged with murder in the first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
Murder in the first degree, so say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree, so say all deliberating jurors.
I do.
Thank you. If you could hand that back to the court officer, please.
At this time, we'd move to poll the jurors.
All right. And then they polled the jurors. We're going to listen to them polling the jurors. And then for all of you that were just coming in, we were re-watching the verdict, and then we're going to go to Q&A. Sentencing has already been set for Wednesday.
The jury may be polled.
Thank you. Juror number one, juror in seat number one. As to the verdict of murder in the first degree, is that your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number two, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number three, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number four, as to the charge
Just
of
say,
murder
is that your verdict?
degree, is that your verdict?
Is that your verdict? That's it.
Mr. Foreperson, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 8, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 9, is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 10, is that your verdict? Juror in seat number 13?
Yes.
Is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, is that your verdict?
Yes.
And last juror, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, all jurors answer affirmatively that the guilty of first degree is their verdict.
The verdict may be recorded. Please
Thank
be
you.
seated.
Doctor Who, they do poll the jury, but it is upon attorney request. So the attorney has to request that the jury be polled in Massachusetts. It's not automatic. And Tipton did say, may we poll the jury. I don't think the defense or the defendant were surprised. I'm sure the defense attorney told him this morning when he got to court, if there is a verdict today, you need to not react. We saw what happened with Donna, right? So the defense would say you need to not react. The defense would have also talked to him realistically about the probability that he gets convicted on this evidence. They would have told him that his best opportunity was to really try. First, you always argue for the not guilty, but I think realistically, they were hoping maybe they could judge somebody to a second. Maybe there would be a juror that's like, you know what? If we don't have a cause of death, I have a really hard time saying to a moral certainty what happened to Anna Walsh. And at the end of the day, this jury did not have an issue with it. The court has set sentencing for Wednesday. The only real questions at sentencing are exactly what his sentence will be on the counts that he pled to, counts 2 and 3. Of course, there will be an appeal in this case. When we get to the appeal, we will read it on the grounds that they raised the appeal. We did not heavily cover the pretrial motions in this case. I do not know what was decided in the pretrial motions. I looked at the pretrial motions vis-a-vis Proctor's involvement, phone, and relative related fuckery. So as we were looking at pretrial motions, in this case, it was vis-a-vis discovery, not pretrial motion work. And we did not go through pretrial motion work. But when it comes up in the appeal, we will take a look at it at that point, because appeals are going to be on decisions made about the evidence before trial and decisions made during trial. That's what they're going to appeal. That's what they're going to appeal on. So with all of that, we will go to your questions. Crazy Jolo, I'm holding on to that question too. So let's get to Q&A. Law Nerds, it's good to see you. How you doing? It's been a whirlwind of a day, isn't it? Whirlwind of a day. Whirlwind of a verdict day. But you've got questions, I've got questions, we've got questions. We're just going to
Bring the jury.
We're just going to do that because we didn't do it earlier. You know what we didn't do earlier? We didn't fly to Massachusetts. Let's do that. So we didn't fly to Massachusetts. Now we are in Massachusetts. Welcome to all of our members. Thank you to everyone who gifted members. Thank you to everyone who joined us in our Verdict Watch chat this morning. We had a members only Verdict Watch chat going on. I was hoping to get that video connected to this video to dump it over, and it did not work well. And so I just had to end that one and start this one. It was a very short period of time between the court saying the jury has a verdict and them reading the verdict in court. So I was scrambling. I'm sure some of y'all were scrambling, but we were scrambling. A lot of you thought that there would be a verdict today. Some of you before lunch, some of you after lunch. But after they didn't have a verdict on Friday, today was the next best or the next most voted. Ambrosia said, my best friend and I are watching this trial together. Happy closing, Dr. Jones. I think I have gone way back in time on that because that was from last week, but that's okay. Crazy Joe Lowe said, has he already been sentenced on the counts he pled to? No, he has not. The court told the attorneys that she wanted a little bit of motion work. Sorry, we got it wiggly. We've been sitting here a long time. The court wanted a little bit of motion work with regard to the enhancement because the sentencing is different for obstruction depending on what type of charge you were lying to the police to get away with. If you're lying to the police to get out of a traffic ticket, it is going to be a different sentence than if you were lying to the police relative to a crime you can be charged with a life or a crime you're charged with that carries a life sentence. All the different words got out of order. So now that he has been convicted of a first-degree murder, that carries a life sentence. Technically, a second can carry a life sentence as well. So different about whether or not there's parole on a second, but they carry a life sentence. And so there was some discussion between the attorneys about whether there was the higher sentencing range on the obstruction or the lower sentencing range. It's pretty clear that now it's the higher sentencing range. And so I think he's just going to get the max on those two and then life without parole on the first degree murder. It's a life period case. Ted asked, do you think this will get overturned on appeal due to them losing the motion to suppress everything they illegally found on his phone? I don't know if things were illegally found on his phone. I don't know the circumstances of the search on the phone. As we get into the appeal, it'll be a question that we will look at. I think that this judge has been incredibly conscientious. So I have really seen a lot of mindful and researched legal work from this bench officer. I don't know if it was a different bench officer earlier in the case. I don't know what the motions were about suppression. And I don't know what the context of the searches were. As we get into the appeal on this case, we will talk about the legal nuance more, and maybe my opinion will be more informed. But I don't know. Juniper said, how would Brian Walshe ever think a not guilty was possible? How would Alec Murdaugh? How would Tom Girardi? I mean, I don't mean to be too flip, Juniper, because it is a very fair question and I'm not being flip at you. I did a lot of fraud cases. It is hard to logic an answer when Brian Walsh's argument to the jury we thought was going to be, I found my spouse non-responsive. And what I did was start Googling and make a list and go to Lowe's and buy a hatchet and a hacksaw. You can't apply a logical, how would he have ever thought this? Because we're already not dealing with a lens that we are looking through, right? All of us have faced annoyance in our day. Look, if you've ever been to Costco in the holiday season and somebody plops their giant ass Costco cart in the middle of an aisle and you can't get your Costco cart around it, well, there are 1,000 other people in Costco, you have felt true rage in your soul. And what you do is back down the aisle and move around. Sometimes you might move their cart to the side for them. Sometimes you might side eye and be like, really, a cart in the middle of the aisle? What you're not going to do is run them down with your shopping cart, because that is not the logical conclusion or solution, right? Maybe a side eye, but you deal with it. Brian Walshe is not making decisions in the way a lot of us would make decisions. And so it is really hard to logic through, how would someone decide to do this? I don't know. I don't know what causes a person to say, you know what the best plan here is? A Dexter shopping list at Lowe's and some scented candles. I can't tell you what makes people make that decision. What I can say is that there is a common thread amongst particularly fraud defendants, it's where I did a lot of my work, where they do not think they will be caught. They think that what they are doing is right. And in their mind, their decision-making is unimpeachable. And everyone else just either is stupid, doesn't get it, or is wrong, or a combination of all of the above. Because obviously my decision-making, me speaking in the mind of the person, is correct. I mean, in Taylor Business, at least you could follow the train of thought. The train of thought in Taylor Business was drugs. Those were drug thoughts. That was not a logical train of thought. Those were drug thoughts. So in some cases, you can see the train of thought, even if it is not one we agree with. In other types of cases, like a robbery gone wrong, you see somebody trying to commit a robbery and then all hell breaks loose and somebody gets shot. You can follow the chain of events and how it all went bad. And you're like, oh, this was kind of the dominoes. Once the shit started, the dominoes. And you can maybe understand the reason somebody was choosing to do the robbery in the first place. You're like, okay, don't crime, but I can see I can understand where we're at. That doesn't make it okay. That is trying to get into the mind of the person doing the thing and be like, all right, I can kind of see where you were at. This case is not a case where people can get into the mind of the defendant and be like, I see where you were at. This case is a case where you look at the defendant's action and go, how the fuck did we get here? How was this ever the choice? How were these decisions ever made? This is not an easy case to get into the mind of what somebody is thinking. So how could Brian Walshe think that there would be any result other than this? Because he thinks he's smarter than all of us and the jury and probably his lawyers. And I'm basing that opinion of mine off of the behavior that we've seen. He thinks he was smarter. Yeah, no. Nope. Proctorial misconduct said, doesn't LWAP make any other sentence pointless? No, because appeals. No, because appeals. Laws change. Appeals happen. And down the road, a judge could say, you know what? The jury had to know about his guilty plea. Not letting it out means he gets a new trial. No, because appeals happen. Because appeals. So that is a long way of saying he will be sentenced to everything together on Wednesday morning. Though I despise being up early in a way where I can get on the internet, I prefer to be in my bathrobe. I will be here live with y'all because I want to see. I want to see it live too. So I'll be here live with you Wednesday. If you don't have the Lawnerd app, make sure that you get the Lawnerd app so you can stay in the loop. I will be with you live Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll talk about other cases at our normal time, 11 a.m. Central, which seems to be the time that is reasonable enough for me, for East Coast, for West Coast, and for our international crew. So let's see. Court said, I'm trying not to cackle at work. I understand. Sardonisms sent a super chat saying, I'm home recovering from getting a brain tumor removed and delighted in the sound of EDB to get me through. Thanks for being here and being awesome. Sardonisms, all the good thoughts for speedy recovery. Good to see you in the chat. It is the best community. It is. It's just the best community. I know y'all are part of a lot of different communities, and there are great communities on the internet. Most of them are not, but there are a lot of great communities on the internet, and you guys make this community absolutely above and beyond. Monica Hicks in the chat asked EDB, what effect does this have on his federal art fraud sentencing? None. The art fraud happened before, so subsequent acts don't change the art fraud. So none. It doesn't change his art fraud case. Let me look real quick and see, because I meant to look it up. I kept thinking we had more time. And it's like finals week for my kid. And so the weekend got away from me. Podcast recording got away from me. Things happened. Let me take a look at his sentencing. Do you want to just do that together? Let's just do that together real quick. I found a press statement from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Let's just pull that up together and take a look real quick. So thank you for hanging with me as I pull that up. Let's see. Every website has a different layout. Let's see if we can just do it that way. That still cuts things off. Hold on. We'll just shift it. Emily fights with technology. Take 3. That went smoother than yesterday. All right. February 20th, 2024, Brian Walshe sentenced for scheme to sell counterfeit Warhol paintings as if he was inspired by Animal Crossing. That is my interjection. That is not actually in this headline from the United States Attorney's Office, District of Massachusetts. He has been sentenced. He had the restitution, but this all happened after the murder, but before this trial, right? Defendant offered authentic Andy Warhol paintings for sale on eBay and instead delivered fake paintings to buyer. Boston, a Lynn, I imagine that's a location in Boston, man was sentenced today in connection with a years-long multifaceted art fraud scheme involving 2 purported Andy Warhol paintings. Brian Walshe, 49, was sentenced by the U.S. Senior District Court Judge William G. Young to 37 months. The senior judge, Mr. Young, sentenced to 37 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release. Well, I mean, that ship has sailed, am I right? Yeah, no supervised release for you, sir. Jen Shaw, you are not. I know, all of you are like, who goes to eBay for Warhols? I know. I don't know. We had only half of the lip gloss today. So all of you are like, supervised release. It's a little different post sentencing, but still. 37 months in prison, 3 years supervised release, so 37 months in prison. Walshe was ordered to pay restitution of $475,000. We'll see. Walshe, well, I guess they could still make a motion to attach any money put on his books, right? If he had any money on his books, they could still attach money on his books for restitution. I think restitution in this, if restitution was ordered in the homicide case, I think that would take priority, but they could, I guess, go next and try to get the money off his books. But I didn't have my other lip gloss in my office today, chat. So we're working with what we got. Why? Because I was on a Zoom call and I thought we had a little more time. As much as you think you're prepared for a verdict, if you're not sitting in court, never prepared enough. Smoother morning than the Karen Reed verdict, though, I will say. All right, so eBay. Walshe was ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $475,000. In April 2021, Walshe pled guilty with integrity Sorry, it's from his police interview. To 1 count each of wire fraud, interstate transportation for a scheme to defraud, and unlawful money transaction. So 3 counts. So not a plea deal. 3 counts open to the court. In early November 2016. 2016? This happened in 2016 and he was sentenced in 2024? Y'all, we have got to close the gap. We have got to narrow that gap down. In November 2016, a buyer found 2 Andy Warhol paintings for sale on eBay. The paintings were 2 of Warhol's quote-unquote shadow series of untitled abstract canvas paintings from 1978. My name is Emily, and I was born in 1978. Emily, nobody cares. I know. The original listing price for the paintings was $100,000. In an advertisement, Walshe, the eBay seller, included a picture of an invoice for the 2 Warhol shadow paintings with Warhol Foundation numbers and a purchase price of $240,000. So he included a fake invoice showing that they had been purchased. The buyer believed that the paintings were authentic. Well, he tried to lead them to believe that the paintings were authentic. The buyer believed that the paintings were authentic, and between November 3rd and 5th, 2016, arranged with Walshe to purchase the artwork outside of eBay for $80,000. Oh, and then he went off platform. What does eBay, chat, does eBay take fees from a transaction? I don't know if they do or if they don't. I'm very curious if Walshe, all of you are saying yes, they do. Okay, that makes sense that eBay takes fees. I wonder if Walshe just grabbed the original painting like photos from Google. Like if the victim had reversed image searched these, would it have gotten better? So the photo at the top here are the authentic shadows paintings. This really is fucking Animal Crossing. I keep making a joke about it. Those of you that don't play Animal Crossing, there is a component of gameplay where you have to, or you have the opportunity to purchase artwork and put it in your museum, and you have to determine if it's real artwork or fake artwork when you buy it from Red. But there's a picture of the authentic paintings. So they decided to take the purchase off of eBay, probably to avoid transaction fees, for $80,000. Walshe and the buyer signed a contract which specified that the buyer had 3 days to terminate the contract and get a full refund if the buyer did not accept the artwork. You've got 3 days to determine if it's fake, which also makes the transaction seem more legitimate, doesn't it? Right? The buyer believed, I'm duplicating that. On November 7th, 2016, the buyer's assistant flew to Boston to retrieve the paintings. So the buyer flew out their assistant to go retrieve the paintings, providing Walshe a cashier's check for $80,000. The cashier's check was deposited that day into an account that Walshe controlled, and $33,000 was subsequently withdrawn in the following 14 days. On November 8th, 2016, the buyer removed the paintings frames and found no Warhol Foundation authentication stamps and noticed the canvases and staples looked new. When he compared the paintings to the photographs from the eBay listing, they did not look identical. The buyer concluded that the paintings he purchased from Walshe were not authentic. So the photos on the listing authentic, it's like ordered this, literally ordered this, received this. But a cashier's check though. Ordered this, received this. When he compared the paintings to the photographs from eBay, they did not look identical. The buyer concluded that the paintings he purchased were not authentic. The buyer then repeatedly attempted to contact Walshe, who initially did not respond. Shocking. And then made excuses for the delay in refunding the buyer's money. Also shocking. Walshe initially gained access to the paintings through a victim who was his friend. What? Wait. What? Oh, also, it shows a picture of the fake paintings vis-a-vis the real paintings. We are not the same. Wait, okay, what? Walshe initially gained access to the paintings through a victim who was his friend. While visiting the victim in South Korea, Walshe told the victim he could sell some of the art for a good price. The victim agreed and let Walshe take the 2 shadow paintings and other fine art pieces. Wait, he had real ones at one point? What, he's just like treating them like a 3D, like, oh, what was the word I was looking for? The JPEGs of like the monkeys and stuff that people were selling. Those. He was just trying to just like sell multiple copies. NFTs. He was treating them like real life NFTs. Thank you, chat. That's what I meant. He was trying to NFT that shit. So wait, did he take the originals from the victim and not give the victim the money and sell the originals at some point? The victim agreed to let Walshe take the 2 shadow paintings and other fine art pieces. A subsequent investigation revealed that Walshe sold the original shadow paintings to a gallery in 2011. Emily, keep reading. He did try to NFT them. Those paintings passed through multiple hands until they were sold to buyers outside the country. To date, the government has not regained possession of the original shadow paintings. So he took the real Warhols from his friend, said, I'll hook you up with a buyer, sold those in 2011, and then used the photos from the real one on eBay to try to put another buyer on the hook? Huh. Did the friend ever get the money? The friend didn't get the money, did they? Sir, it's giving Corey Richins. Because the friend is being referred to as a victim. I imagine the friend never got the money either. Additionally, Emily, keep reading. Additionally, the investigation also revealed that sometime in 2011, Walshe obtained a different set of replica shadow paintings from an artist who did not know Walsh's purpose. Replica paintings. In 2015, Walshe sold that set to another victim who resided in France. Walshe is like, hey, these paintings are real popular. I got pictures of the originals. I wonder if Walshe was like, hey, I want to keep the originals. Can you imagine this conversation? Hey, I have the originals of these. Here are the pictures. I have the originals. I want to keep the originals secure, but I want to display them at home. But like, I want to keep the originals locked up because if I get robbed, I don't want the originals getting taken off the wall. So can you replicate these so I can display them at home and they won't get like faded by the sun and they won't get stolen? And then I can keep the originals that I have safe. I can totally see him doing that. In 2015, Walshe sold another set to a victim who resided in France. So we've got international. I bet they didn't come after him for that. Acting United States Attorney Joshua Levy, and Jody Cohen, special agent in charge of the FBI. Oh, who? The FBI! Made the announcement today. The Lynn Police Department provided assistance with the investigation, and then other attorneys were involved. Yeah, well, that's why he got more jail time. This wasn't just a one thing. This was a number of things. He did get arrested in 2018. The intervening murder did slow down him taking responsibility for this case because he pled in, 2021, the jury was told. So, Brian Walshe, those paintings do not look the same at all. It's like, No. Just no. All right. Well, art fraud case. He was sentenced on 37 months with restitution. That was a long side quest to answer the question, does this case impact the art fraud sentencing? No. That case is done. That case came before this case. It doesn't change the sentencing. It doesn't change anything about the art fraud case except that Brian Walshe won't get the supervised release because he's not going to get released. And because that was only a 37-month case that he was sentenced to in 2024, he might be getting concurrent time on it while he is in custody pending this case. And he will be serving his prison term in local custody, not in federal custody. So he can't say, but can I go serve my time in federal custody? No. No, you can't. You can go to state prison. I mean, they might send you to another state. You might get sent to like Georgia or some shit, but no, you go to prison. Go to state prison. You're going to go to state prison. You don't get to go to federal prison, even if you think it's nicer. Michelle said, thank you, EDB, for getting me through surgery recovery last week and getting back into the swing of things this week. Happy holidays to you and your family and all of the chat. A lot of people have been recovering. It's the end of the year. It's a time where you can finish out the insurance year this year and get time off from work if you need it and have some time to recover. So all of you that are recovering, I hope that you recover well. Proctoral misconduct asked about the locations in Google without consent or warrants. I don't know the facts of this proctoral misconduct, so I can't answer because I don't have all of the facts regarding what happened before this went to trial. So it's going to come up with the appeals if the defense takes issue with the way that the searches were obtained, but I have not read the motions and I haven't read any court ruling on those motions, so I don't know the facts surrounding it. And when it comes up to appeal, we'll cover it more. Barry Adams said maybe EDB won't run them down with her Costco cart, but then maybe EDB has more judicial demeanor than she gives herself credit for. Yes, we restrain from assault. No assault. You know, it gets real in the Whole Foods parking lot, but that's because of the little carts they got. Costco's different. Those carts are big as hell. Whole different thing. Chat, a number of you are asking, including Deanna Gainsforth, how will he make restitution for the art fraud while in jail? Well, if people like perhaps his mother chooses to put money on his books so he can buy more noodles and beef sticks, that can be a portion of that can be taken. Every jurisdiction has a different percent, but they can attach or garnish his books to a percentage to go to restitution. If he works in custody or is assigned a job, that can be garnished. If he chooses to get paid for an interview, because remember, in most jurisdictions, even where there are rules about how you would monetize talking about your case, most of those rules involve garnishment because First Amendment. So Massachusetts does not have any rules that prohibit Brian Walshe from speaking about his case or speaking about what happened here. And if he gets paid for any of that, that can also be garnished. So it can be taken to restitution first. It would probably go to restitution in the murder case first. If any restitution is ordered here, it would go there first and then to the art fraud case. Hills and Mountains, when is sentencing? Wednesday morning. So I understand why it seemed likely to everyone that Brian Walshe would spend some custody time on the art fraud case, given that it wasn't just a thing. It was a longer pattern of behavior. So I understand why the thought was he was going to be in custody. Because on those facts, I agree that he would be in custody. Casey Cat, good to see you in the chat. Did you see Damp Dollars got caught hoarding beef sticks when transferred to her new prison? I didn't see that. I'm not surprised. She's not going to make more besties without beef sticks. You need beef sticks for the besties, right? So we know that Donna tries to get out of things with whatever currency she can work with. And in custody, commissary is currency. Ashley said, I got my gorgeous pink unicorn because I love this community so much. Glad to have been here with y'all for another trial. And yes, you will see that in the chat that our member icons or our member badges did change, and they are they shift with how long you have been a member of the community. So a lot of you are starting to see your unicorns because you have been with this community as a member on the channel for more than 5 years, which is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible to have y'all here, and wild to look back at from 5 years ago to now, the things that have grown and changed, not just in all of our lives and in the cases we've covered, but also with this channel and our community. I've always said that this community for me is about finding more law nerds whose community this is for them. And we have done exceedingly well at finding law nerds who want to be here. Also, I think I'm very off-putting to the law nerds or non-law nerds that don't want to be here. Like it's either your vibe or it's not. I think it's easy for people to opt out as well. We make it easy to opt in. Like if this is the place for you, you will love it here. If this is not the place for you, oh, you will not. And that is okay. So I hope we make it easy for the law nerds that want to be here to find us, and for those that don't, to realize when it's not for them that they can just, it's okay. There are lots of places on the internet to go do other things. We're just going to be here. Leave us alone. We're just going to be here doing our thing. Y'all can go. Y'all can go. Lissy said, didn't even realize it's been 16 months. It's good to see you. Ames said, no pink unicorn yet, but one day we're working on it. So it's good to see all of the members in the chat sharing their member milestones. Lindsay said, I want a unicorn. With all great things, sometimes it just takes time. My idea said, wow, if Brian Walshe had taken responsibility in 2016 or 2017 for the art fraud, he would have been out and moved on with his life 5 years ago. And also, it seems, I don't want to downplay the significance of a fraud case, but when we're looking at the spectrum of criminal law, fraud cases, and I rant about this on occasion. I'm not going to rant about it too much today. Fraud cases are not treated the same sentencing wise. I mean, even pre-custody wise as violent cases. They're not treated the same. There are lots of conversations around that. I think for some fraud victims, the way that it derails their life can be equally, if not sometimes harder to recover from. The way that fraud victims are damaged is different than the way that victims of physical violence are damaged. And it's not to say one is bettering, one is better or worse. But on a spectrum, fraud cases are still very difficult for victims to overcome, from identity theft, financial crimes, losing their entire, life savings, are still difficult to heal and recover from. Either way, those things are not treated the same under the law, so the sentencing is not treated the same. $400,000 of restitution on a federal case is not a super large number when we are talking about federal fraud cases. Is $400,000 a lot of money? 100%. It's a lot of money. But is it I'm never going to recover from this amount of money for Brian Walshe? Probably not. And it seemed that Brian Walsh's mom was in a position where she was like, oh, $5,000 a month of rent, I'll just pay 6 months at once. They're in a position that they have some assets that they can work with. And so Brian Walsh's fraud case was not going to be something that he would never recover from. it seemed that he came from a family with means. Now, is his mommy obligated to pay for his federal fraud case? No. But his wife is also making, or shifted into a job where she was making $300,000 a year. They had rental properties. It would be something that he could manage. It was not insurmountable. So I don't know why the fraud case, other than ego, why the fraud case was so devastating to him. It was probably embarrassing. I don't think the fraud case was devastating. I don't think he wanted to be in custody. I don't speculate often, but from what we've seen in this case, I have to wonder if going to custody on the fraud case was not the issue. I have to wonder if going into custody on the fraud case, while Anna Walshe seemed to want to move on with her life, was the bigger issue. Not the restitution, not the fact that he doesn't want to be in custody, but if he is in custody, it makes it a little easier for her to be like, we're going to be here when you get out, and then a month from now file divorce papers and be like, yeah, we're going to be here when you get out. We'll work out visitation while you're on home confinement. Because remember, 37 months, 3 years of supervised release. 3 years of supervised release would still be in Massachusetts. And then she could choose to bring the kids to visit him. She could choose to FaceTime. But he wouldn't be blowing up her phone and her friends' phones every 30 seconds if he just goes into custody. So I don't know if she was like, just take responsibility, go into custody, and we can figure out how to move on. And if moving on was for her was, when he's in custody, I can just handle this then, and he's in custody. You don't have to worry about him wilding out other than over the phone. And even then, you can just not answer it. But I think the going into custody, I just wonder if he thought that going into custody was going to be the final distance between him and Anna that was going to lead to her moving on. And she seemingly had all of the assets. And he wasn't Googling how to protect assets when going to prison. He was Googling best state to get divorced in for a man. So there's that. So I don't think it was going into custody itself that was the thing. I think it was going into custody with all the surrounding circumstances that were a bigger thing in this case. And I wish we had gotten to hear more from Jem Mutlu about what his vibes were. I wish we had heard more from Miss Kirby about the conversation with Brian Walshe and his mother. I have questions about the PI. We'll see. Everyone who gifted memberships, thank you for the gifted memberships. We'll see what comes next with the mom's case. Because remember, the mom defaulted on her freaking case with the landlord. So the mom's going to have to pay the landlord at some point. How much? We'll see. The virtual juror said, could a successful appeal impact the enhancement? That's a great question. I don't think so. The enhancement from caveat. I am not a Massachusetts attorney. I have not researched this as in depth as I would research if I was giving an answer to anyone I was advising. Here is the initial thoughts. I want to see what the judge has to say on Wednesday. Initial thoughts. The enhancement seems to be factually based. The facts of the case are that the jury determined that this was a first-degree murder. I think there are enough facts on the record, including the defendant's plea, that the court could say factually the defendant was not lying to police to cover up the fact that he disposed of a body, which would not be a case that carries life. I think there is enough in the record for the court to say factually, I am making the factual finding that the defendant was lying to law enforcement to cover up the murder. including the tech evidence with his phone being missing, the time that he was taking from probation, the slippers before the Tyvek suit. There are enough facts on the record that the court could say, I think that the lie was not to cover up the disposal of Anna Walshe, but the lie was to cover up the murder of Anna Walshe. That factual finding supports the enhancement, even if the appellate court down the road says, hey, this ruling was inaccurate or this ruling was inaccurate. That's where I'm at on that without looking at the case law underlying. And I don't think it's a true enhancement. I think it's a sentencing range. And the judge is allowed to use facts to pick the higher end of the sentencing range. It may also be a technical enhancement where it's like the sentence is this, but if it's a life case, add this. That circumstance makes it a little easier to excise out the add this part. But either way, I think it's a factual determination, and the factual determination is made by the court. I think the record supports that he was lying to cover up a murder. Not the, in California, and we'll talk about this in the podcast today when it goes live. In California, the disposal, it's such a, the law is the law, but it's just such a awkward way to talk about it. But in California, we're talking about the David case a bit on the podcast that's going to go live today after we are done here. I mean, not immediately. We'll send you a notification in the Lawnerd app. We're talking about the investigation in the David case, the grand jury in that case. But the improper disposal in California is a misdemeanor. So that is lying to police to dissuade discovery of a improper disposal in Massachusetts would not count for the enhanced sentencing time because it's not a life case. Same with California. But we're going to talk about the David case on the podcast today when that goes live. So that'll go live later today. Just have the Lawnerd app on. Make sure your notifications are on. There's a way to do that in the we have instructions somewhere, but there's also an FAQ within the app that can tell you. Jammy Mama says, EDB, I've put this in chat, but wanted to make sure you saw it. You inspired me to go back to school, and I'm studying to get my associates in paralegal studies. I'm halfway done and have a 3.77 GPA. Wait, let me find the hand claps. Hold on. All the applause. Congratulations. Way to go. That's amazing. Not easily done. And I hope that going back to school has felt amazing. I'm sure there are times it is exhausting and challenging, but I hope it feels amazing. I know that for me, streaming here has kept me connected to law in a way that when I stepped away and retired, I didn't think I would engage with. And I don't have complaints. I love what I do and I love y'all. The only thing I wish I had sometimes was just a little bit more time to noodle into that kind of research. But having time to noodle into, I wonder how this enhancement came about. What's the legislative intent here and the background? I don't always have adequate time to fully deep dive those endeavors because I have found that when it is by choice, not oh my God, you have to go to college, it has been a lot more fun. So I hope that the endeavor has felt the same, that getting to choose how and what you study feels more fun and satisfying, because that's what I found here. Maya Zell asked a great question in the chat. A lot of you have asked me this question in the comments in the chat and in DMs on Instagram. How often does it happen that the defense doesn't present a case? A lot. It is more often that the defense calls no witnesses, in my experience, than the defense calls witnesses. Sometimes the defense will call a witness or two. It is rare that the defendant chooses to testify. It is, and that shifts by the nature of the charge, but it is very common that the defense entire case is opening statement, closing arguments, all the pretrial work to determine what evidence comes in and out. That is a huge part of the defense case, is the pretrial and motion in limine work. There's a lot of work to be done in the jury instructions in cases where the defense can get a better or more favorable jury instruction. But it is often that the defense puts their case in through vigorous cross-examination and closing argument and opening statement, and that's it. It is more unusual to see the defense call a large amount of witnesses. So the cases we have seen have been more of the unusual case, unless you have a homicide case where the defense is running a, by reason of mental defect, which is in the older legal language would be NGI. Then you'll see experts, but it's more common that the defense calls no witnesses. So how much does that happen? Most of the time. I mean, there's cases all the time that the prosecution calls a witness, 2 witnesses, 3 witnesses, and the case is done in like a day. It's not the defense's burden. The defense doesn't have to put on a case, and they can rely on the Commonwealth didn't prove it, or the people didn't prove it. The prosecution didn't prove it. Lisa Harp, I saw reported on social that the defendant's mother was in court. So I saw that. He gives beauty for ashes. I'm trying to pull this up and it was fighting with me. EDB, while you are missed as a prosecutor, we need all the ethical ones we can get. I'm so glad you have chosen the channel. I have learned so much from you and the Law Nerds. I think that I am well suited for what I do here. Not that I don't think I was well suited to be a prosecutor. I know that I was very good at my job, but I was not good at taking care of myself and my family while being good at my job. It was kind of an all or none. I was very bad at balancing it, which led to, a whole lot of adrenal fatigue and complete system collapse burnout. So that wasn't good. I was not good at balancing. And all or none is not great for a long and healthy and balanced career. I will say that I got a text just on a little share. I didn't know if I was going to share this, but it feels like now is just the time. When I went to leave the DA's office, my boss was so kind. But my boss was like, please don't leave. And I was like, I have to. He's like, just take a 6-month leave of absence. You have a leave of absence, you can come back. Take maybe a 6-month or a 1-year leave of absence and recover. And at the time I was going through complete adrenal fatigue. I was sick all the time, and then herniated my back, and then herniated it again after surgery and had a spinal fusion. So it was and then. So when I went to my boss is like, look, just take 6 months, take a year, take a leave of absence, but don't leave. Take a leave of absence, but don't leave. And I was sitting in my boss's office, and it's so tempting. It's so tempting to say, yeah, I'll take a year. And I looked at my boss and went through some of my coworkers that I had recently lost, which is grief that still is heavy for me. And I was like, look, after these coworkers that I lost, I was like, I can't do this. I did not sign up for a job where going to funerals became a uncomfortably regular part of my job. I'm like, I have got to go, or I am not going to survive. And I felt it so acutely. I have had years now to work on recovering my health. But in hindsight, it might be maybe I could do it better. I couldn't have done it better at the time. I couldn't have balanced myself better at the time. And I was devastated by the losses that I had watched around me of people of all ages from just horrendous health-related illnesses, amongst other things. And so I did not want it to be me. And with how bad my health was, I was worried that it would be. So even when my boss was like, you're great at this, I'm like, I'm great at this job. I am shit at doing this job and doing anything else. I can do this job, but I can't do this job and just be healthy. I don't know. And I don't know if I can I don't know if I can get back that balance. And I don't want my kids to be like, oh no, we haven't seen mom's in trial. Like, that was incredibly stressful. And I didn't think I could balance it well. So it was really, really tough. And though I loved it, I did not balance it well. Many people do. I did not. And I don't know if it's just partly my personality, partly neurodivergence, partly my life circumstances, partly just me. But it wasn't the first time I had gone like all or nothing and just wrecked myself. So I was real familiar with that pattern, and I was real scared of where that was going to go. And the spinal fusion gave me some much needed reflection, and the I can't was really real. And a friend that passed was a huge factor in that. So another time we might talk about that more. I didn't talk about it a ton when I gave my TEDx talk about trying to rebuild, because I already had a hard time getting through that without getting choked up. I'm going to need a little bit more time before I can tell all of that story and do it, and my friend, justice. But one day, hopefully, we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But it's hard. It's still hard. And it's hard decisions don't mean it's not the right decision. And I love doing all of this with y'all. I really do. And I can't imagine what my life would look like now if I hadn't made those choices. But I didn't know that that choice would lead to here. I didn't. I told Dr. B, I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll figure out how to make money. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I trust that I can figure it out. I like to drive. We'll go drive DoorDash. I will figure it out. I didn't know what figuring it out would look like. I didn't know figuring it out would lead us here. I can't imagine not making that choice. But it's all the little choices that build to here. And I think it was Steve Jobs that said you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. It really is you can only make the best decision you can with the information you have at the moment. And though I'm sure that there are times that there are decisions I could have made better, I really do feel like I've tried to make the best decision I can with the information I have at the moment. And in hindsight, it's always easy to go, oh, could have made a different choice. Could you have? Best decision you can with the information you have at the time. That's all you can do. And I keep trying to do that. So I'm glad to be here. And I keep trying to remember that you can't, hindsighting your life choices is not helpful, because you can't connect the dots going forward. You can just one step in front of the other. But what I was going to share a little bit is that I got a very unexpected text message from a former coworker. We're going to talk about this more on a members only, which I will schedule now that we know when sentencing is. We're going to talk about this a little bit more on a members only, probably later this week. But a coworker texted kind of out of the blue and was like, so, funny thing, I'm going through juror questionnaires for an upcoming trial. And in those juror questionnaires, we ask if anyone watches law or crime related content. And he's like, apparently you have a YouTube channel that my jurors are watching. And I was like, oh yeah, that's, yeah, so we haven't caught up in a few years, and that's a whole thing. And I'm happy to tell you about it. But some juror somewhere was like, Emily D. Baker. And my coworker was like, girl, what is happening? But my text message started with, dude, period. what is happening? And I was just giggling. So it's really funny the ripples it can have that you don't know. I had coworkers reach out to me during Depp Heard because they came across my channel in one way or the other. I had defense attorneys I work with reach out and express their delight and sometimes like, no, girl, this, at seeing my face on the internet. So it's been a fun adventure. The people that I know have been incredibly kind. The law nerds have been amazing. We got some stories about some other folks that are on a list somewhere in a freezer, but we won't talk about that. We'll just let that go. Did they pick the juror? No, I did not ask that question, and this is questionnaires going on for a future trial. So, no, there are some that have been there are some on the internet that get a little spicy, but it doesn't matter because the law nerds have so much else going on. And honestly, can you have a YouTube channel without people on the internet getting spicy on occasion? I don't think so. I don't think you can. So, y'all, look, I have told y'all a million times. I am all earth signs. All of it. Sun, moon, rising, all earth signs. I am a Taurus. I do not start shit. But if you start shit, well, then there might be shit. Tauruses move quietly. And then people are like, wait, what the fuck happened? We don't need to talk about it. Matt in the chat said, important question. Did you ever get your Dr. Pepper? Yes. And I did tell the members yesterday when we were recording behind the scenes of the podcast that I might need to try Swig this week. So I might do that this week before we do a members only. I think we'll probably do that. We'll have to take a look. I think we'll probably do that on Thursday. And we'll see. So let's see. Lisa asked the same question. A few of you have asked, can you explain the evidentiary issues regarding the consent to the devices? I cannot because I do not know because I did not cover the pretrial. As we get into the appeal of this case, because there will be an appeal, it's automatic. When we get into the appeal of this case, the searches on the devices are of particular interest to me, and I will put an asterisk on that. However, it seemed to me that there were also warrants for like Verizon and what have you. So as a very broad swath of general law, there is the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, which I've seen a lot of you ask about. There is a fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, which says that if you get to a thing illegally and it leads you to other things, you don't get to keep the other things. They are tainted. However, inevitable discovery is also a thing. Inevitable discovery can negate in some cases fruit of the poisonous tree, depending on how things happened. So if law enforcement did a search wrong or got into a phone wrong, or trying to come up with an example that is still a good one on the fly that is not part of this case, but say, okay, law enforcement gets somebody's cell phone and they work with me on the fly and they get the person to give them the phone passcode. And the way that they get the person to give them the phone passcode violates Miranda or something else. And they shouldn't have the phone passcode. So everything they got from the phone with the passcode could be tainted because they weren't supposed to get the passcode. However, if they also have a download of the phone and then use the hardware to crack the phone, and the person had put in like a 3-digit, 4-digit passcode, not a 6, 7, 8-digit passcode, and it takes 6 months, but they get through the passcode because they can brute force it in 6 months, and then they get to the stuff on the phone. The stuff on the phone comes in because they got it another way. Or they get the passcode from the defendant improperly. They get into the phone. They don't search the phone. They get into the phone. They see improper things, or they don't see anything at all. And then they get a search warrant from Google. And I find factual scenarios are more helpful. They get a search warrant from Google to get the Google account. They get the Google account, and in the emails in Google, somebody's saying, oh yeah, no, go ahead, use my garage code 1212. It's the same code I use for everything. That's my code 1212. I just use it for everything. Go ahead, you can get into the garage. And they sent an email, they got the email properly. And then they go back and are like, I mean, they said they use 1212 for everything. Hit it in the phone, see if it works. 1212, it works. Then the stuff that comes out of the phone, even if they might have initially gotten into the phone with the passcode wrong, well, the passcode's in the email, so it's inevitable that it's going to come in. So inevitable discovery is part of the balance. That's why you're all saying 6-7 in the chat, because I keep doing this. If the thing that is improper can kind of be isolated out from the inevitable discovery that would have happened 7 different ways, then inevitable discovery will override any potential fruit of the poisonous tree, depending on the fact scenario. Hopefully those analogies helped a little bit. If there are multiple ways to get a thing, even if one of the ways is improper, if multiple other ways are proper and they go those other ways, you can see it. They did this in the Corey Richins case. In the Corey Richins case, they did a download of the phone and brute forced it with new software to ensure that the version of the phone that they were using was proper. And they had done it twice because there was concern that there might be issues with the first download and crack of the phone. And so they sent it off to the FBI and they did a subsequent download of Corey Richins' phone and cracked the phone with different devices and then used, or different hardware and software, and used that extraction from the phone and didn't use the questionable extraction. It's why they don't just they don't give you back your phone. I mean, once the case is done, they should give you back your fucking phone, but they don't just give you back your phone sometimes because they might need to take another full extraction from the beginning. And they did that in the Richins case. So we will see. But inevitable discovery is one of those things that can negate and override potential search or search warrant issues. And it is a pretty legally hardy doctrine. It doesn't just get overthrown or overturned easily, especially when there are search warrants going to other things that would all lead you back to the same search warrant. So when we get into the appeal, we'll take a look at that more fulsomely, and I can go through and explain it. I can't explain it without all of the facts. And honestly, everything that's written in the Court of Appeals is A, easier to obtain than Massachusetts documents, and B, it's just easier to parse through because it's presented in a much more linear fashion. But I'll go see if I can find the judge's order from those motions to start getting prepared. We probably won't go through that this week. My brain is you can already tell my brain's kind of done. My brain's already a little bit done. We can go through that early on in the new year, but here's things we have coming down the pike in the new year. We've got Murdaugh appeals. We've got like 3 days of hearings in the Corey Richins case, and a judge that still is like, no live streaming. So things take like days and days to get up from the Corey Richins case. We have Ron stuff we need to talk about. If you're new here, just come along for the ride. It's a fantastic voyage. We have potentially the TikTok psychic going to trial on damages. Anybody think the TikTok psychic's actually going to show up in Idaho? Like, I don't foresee a positive outcome. The bigger question in that case is how the judge will deal with the defendant being in absentia. So we're going to cover that. We've got other cases that are on the docket that we haven't even started to talk about yet. So there is much to cover going into the new year. So for all of you who are like, what's next? Tomorrow we will be streaming at our regular time. If any of the jury members talk to any of the media today, I will cover it tomorrow. If we do not cover that tomorrow, there are other court updates that we will cover tomorrow. We have a new podcast dropping for you today. In the David investigation, there is a grand jury going on, and there is like shit popping off in the hallways at CCB, which I think has a different name now in Los Angeles, but whatever, it's CCB. There's shit happening in the hallways at CCB with regard to this grand jury case, and pending potential arrests in the David case. You might not see coming who might be arrested more imminently. We have some updates about Jen Shaw suing the warden after her release from prison. We have a brief Courthouse Becky update. I would like to talk more about Courthouse Becky tomorrow. We'll see if Becca Boo gets bumped another day. Sorry, Becky, you're not the top of the docket anymore, boo-boo. And then there are other things, as always, happening. So we will see. Law Nerds, I think I've answered most of the pending questions. All of you, thank you for being here. I know we were scrambling to be live for a verdict, and we got to watch it live together. Before any spoilers, we got to watch it in real time and then multiple times on the replay. You guys are the best. I couldn't have anticipated what wanting to talk about the law, especially the law in pop culture, would mean for my life, would mean for the impact that it's had on your lives and the impact you are going on to do in your own lives, in your communities, and in the world. The Law Nerds are just such a force for good, and I am so thankful I get to be a part of it. Thank you. Law Nerds, next time, I mean, the Law Nerds are like Swiftie adjacent levels of powerful. We do break shit. But next time, can we just get like the Swiftie doc just dumped in just one? Like, why are we dripping out episodes like it's like 2002? Can I just binge watch it? Also, I do need to rewatch the Diddy documentary is it on Netflix? Netflix or Hulu? I need to rewatch it. There were a few episodes that I want to see again when I'm not chatting through my child about what the 90s East Coast, West Coast rap beef was like, and trying to explain to him trying to watch the Diddy doc with a 17-year-old, trying to explain to him who Sean Combs is, but not just who he is, but what celebrity in the 90s and early 2000s was like, because my kids' experience of like celebrity and our experience, a lot of us growing up with celebrity, are so different. And so trying to explain to him what that level of celebrity was like then is more challenging than I thought it would be, because it's just changed so much. So that has been interesting, but I'd like to watch it a little bit when I'm paying attention, because it is well done and it is very interesting, and we can talk about it a little bit more, because there's some stuff with a juror that I would like to chat about. I just don't know when we're going to have a chance to chat about it. Maybe on the podcast next week. What else? That's what I see for this week. We're going to do a members only at some point this week. Members, once I talk to Team Baker, I'll let you know when we're going to do that. We're going to be streaming Tuesday. We're going to be streaming early. We're going to be streaming early on Wednesday. Asterisk. The court said if the court does not have the impact statements, they are going to push the sentencing date. If that happens, I will let you know in the app that the sentencing date has moved. I'm sure you'll see headlines about it too. If the sentencing date moves, we'll stream Wednesday at our normal time and we'll cover something else. If the sentencing date does not move, Wednesday for the sentencing. I mean, it's so much better than federal. Federal's like, great, you pled guilty. See you in 6 months. Take care. It's kind of nice to just do it this week. Just before Christmas. Merry Christmas. Go to prison. Okay. I hope we see the sentencing on Wednesday. Mods, Team Baker, thank you for being here on a random Monday stream. discombobulation and all, as verdicts tend to be, but we were here and I could not wish to be anywhere else than with the Lawnards on a verdict day. And I didn't even put up a poll to see if you thought the jury got it right, because based on what I saw in the chat, I think some of you are in the fuck yes, the jury got it right. Some of you are in the jury got it right, but I was not optimistic that they were going to go first, not second. And some of you are like, the jury got it right. I'm just surprised it wasn't a second. But I haven't seen anybody being like, no, I'm surprised that they convicted him of murder. I think everybody's that I've seen chatting about this case is like, I had questions between first and second. I don't think anyone really had questions about whether a murder happened here. So it's always a great time to have a conversation with you, law nerds. And I hope that Anna Walsh's friends and family can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief today and can feel like some of the weight is taken off them as well. I know the judge's words to the jury were very poignant, but I hope Anna Walsh's family feels it too when the judge was saying, I hope a little bit of a weight is lifted. I hope for them a little bit of a weight is lifted and they can maybe start to close this chapter a little bit, knowing that the jury has reached a verdict, and then try to not pay attention to anything that happens in the appeals court. It is a natural and necessary part of the court process, but it can take decades. And I hope that they are able to just close the book on this and start to honor her memory and start to heal themselves. Because I saw a tremendous amount of sorrow from both Jem and Alyssa Kirby when they testified. Just a tremendous amount of sorrow. And I hope that they're able to put some of that heaviness to the side. I really do. And hopefully we will hear more from their stories as well, because both of them had a lot more to say. And I hope that we hear from them in some way that they feel comfortable sharing. So with all of that, law nerds, I will see you tomorrow. We will talk about other things, I think. But the day is young and court is dynamic. So who knows? But I will see you tomorrow. Mods, Team Baker, production team, thank you. Trials aren't easy, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate you, and thank you. We will have a new podcast out for you guys this afternoon, and I will see you soon. Law nerds, we ride tomorrow as we get into the end of this holiday season. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a law nerd. You're the best. Can't believe it was verdict day. This whole case, like, wait, what? It happened so fucking fast. This whole case. Just, wait, what? We're done. Wait, what? Wait, what? The whole time. But you know what? It's nice to take a look at this case and be like, the jury has reached a verdict. And hopefully people can start to move forward a little bit, even though we're going to still cover court. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you don't miss a live stream or any of the updates on the cases that you care about most with the Lawnerd app at lawnerdapp.com. It's a free download on iOS and Android, so I can keep you in the loop, because you never know when something's going to pop off. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a Law Nerd.